Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
The desperate, exhausting wait for the promise of a new life in Europe. These Pakistanis crammed into a small room by smugglers in Libya, some of them believed to be among the hundreds presumed dead. These last images before they embarked on their ill-fated journey. About 750 refugees and migrants were packed into this fishing vessel bound for Italy before it capsized off the coast of Greece. Only 104 survived, and with them the harrowing accounts of what they'd been through.
I can still hear the voice of a woman calling out for help. You would swim and move the floating bodies out of your way.
The Syrian survivor spoke to us from Greece. He asked for his identity to be concealed for security reasons. His and other accounts obtained by CNN not only contradict the official Greek version of events, but point to fault on the part of the Greek Coast Guard. Greek authorities, who watched and were in communication with the boat for an entire day, insist that it was not in distress and refused assistance. Our investigation tells a very different story. Just before 1 p.m. on June 13th, the boat was first spotted by the EU's border patrol agency Frontex, which says it notified Greek authorities of a, quote, heavily overcrowded fishing vessel. Those on board were in distress, lost at sea with no food or water for days, according to survivors and activists in touch with the boat throughout the day. At about 7 p.m., an activist in Italy recorded one of the calls capturing the horror on board. As activists repeatedly relayed calls for a rescue to authorities, 2 merchant vessels approached the boat, instructed by the Greek Coast Guard to provide the boat with food and water. But as darkness fell, at 10:40 p.m., a Greek Coast Guard vessel moves in, now the only ship on the scene. 3 hours later, the haunting last words from the boat to the activist group alarm phone. "Hello, my friend. The ship you send is..." And the line cuts out. What happened next is likely to raise more questions as the investigations continue. Survivors tell us it was a botched attempt by the Greek Coast Guard to tow their boat that caused it to capsize.
They decided to throw us a rope, so the guys at the front tied it. They towed us. The boat tilted to the right and everyone was screaming. People began falling into the sea, and the boat capsized. People couldn't get out from under the boat.
The Greek Coast Guard have declined our request for an interview, but in previous comments they've denied towing the trawler, saying, "When the boat capsized, we were not even next to it. How could we be towing it?" Instead, they blamed a, quote, shift in weight, probably caused by panic. For years, Greek authorities have been accused of systematically and violently pushing back migrants and refugees. Video like this one, released by the Turkish government, captured the now well-documented practice Greece denies. This deadly incident is not just about what they may have done, it's also about what they didn't do.
It was clear it was unseaworthy. It was clear that it is part of a trafficking movement from Libya to Europe. So the authorities had a responsibility to intervene to save life.
As Fortress Europe hardens its immigration policies to deter some of the world's most vulnerable, this disaster will almost certainly not be the last.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
Traffic fatalities are down, but pedestrian fatalities are soaring. And as the summer driving season rolls on, government agencies want drivers to stay alert. In Philadelphia Friday, a major reopening.
This was a moment of civic pride for Philly and Pennsylvania.
Officials were on hand to reopen a major section of northbound I-95 that was damaged after a fiery tanker truck incident almost 2 weeks ago. The closure slowed East Coast shipping and road trips.
This road is being opened because it's completed. It's safely completed and it's ready for traffic.
The busy July 4th travel weekend is days away, and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had more good news for drivers this week. As driver miles ticked up, the agency projecting a decline in U.S. traffic fatalities during the first 3 months of 2023. But a projection from the Governor's Highway Safety Association says drivers struck and killed more pedestrians last year than in any year since 1981. A stark reminder for drivers to keep their eyes on the road, especially at night. Steady gas prices so far this summer could make road trips more appealing.
We've been stuck between $3.50 to $3.60 for a national average going back to April 23. So we've been kind of jumping around within that 10 cent a gallon range, but that's where we find ourselves going into July 4.
Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan says careful summer driving may also save you at the pump.
Leaving a few minutes earlier, using cruise control, and going just under the speed limit can really boost fuel efficiency.
The Department of Energy has some other tips for saving fuel during the summer. First, roll the windows down when you're driving at slower speeds, and when you're on the highway, use the AC. Also, don't idle in the driveway with the AC going. Most cars actually cool more quickly while you are driving. And for electric vehicles, pre-cooling the cabin while you are charging can help extend your vehicle's range.
Like the Advocate channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
Abilene, Texas, where it's been so hot, cookies can be baked without an oven.
It's a pretty brutal heat wave that we're going through, and it hasn't let up for the last couple of weeks.
More than 50 million people from Arizona to Louisiana are coping with, quote, oppressive temperatures, some hitting 100 degrees or higher, according to the Weather Prediction Center.
This is a very dangerous sort of heat wave, and with the humidity mixed in, there's really not even any relief in the evening periods as well.
Forecasters say the higher than usual temps will likely spread to the Mississippi Valley and continue through the July 4th holiday. Cooling centers have been set up in some areas of Texas to try and keep residents as safe as possible.
We have launched our Beat the Heat campaign and making sure that people know the resources that are available if they need to get into a cool place. You know, libraries and community centers, senior centers are all open, and encouraging folks obviously to be advised about the signs of heat-related illness.
Meanwhile, major storms with hail, wind, and possible tornadoes struck more in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, where some houses suffered significant damage this weekend. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. Here's our number 1 story of the day. Take a look.
Activists protest after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade 1 year ago, striking down the constitutional right to an abortion across the nation. Opponents of abortion celebrated the move, and more than a dozen states, mainly in the South, have banned or severely restricted the procedure since the ruling.
Freedom!
Rallies happening across the nation today. The issue galvanized voters during the 2022 midterms. Democrats plan to make abortion rights a central campaign issue in the 2024 presidential election. On Saturday, Vice President Kamala Harris stopped in Charlotte, North Carolina to mark the anniversary with a powerful speech.
The women of our nation have suffered under the consequences of these laws, laws that in design and effect have created chaos, confusion, and fear.
She and President Joe Biden met with key reproductive rights groups on Friday. The president signed an executive order and called on Congress to codify Roe v. Wade.
Court got Roe right 50 years ago, and I believe Congress should restore the protections of Roe v. Wade once and for all.
Around the country.
On Saturday, Republican presidential candidate Mike Pence joined opponents of abortion to celebrate the anniversary of the court's decision at the Lincoln Memorial.
We've not come to the end of this cause. We've come to the end of the beginning. And the work for life goes on.
I'm Shelley Malashi reporting.